I was walking with two friends to score drugs. We'd all gotten released from juvenile hall the day before, and these guys were across the next corner throwing rocks at a sign. We turned at the corner to not deal with them, but they ran over and had us surrounded. They asked for a smoke, which one of my guys gave him. It was late fall and I had a heavy jacket on and kept my hands in my pockets. They were asking us questions. Where you going? Who you know? And then focused on me. You strapped? You packing, white boy? I knew we were in serious trouble, but I stayed remarkably cool and said, hell yes I was, and so on. We finally ended the conversation and started walking away up the side street, but they started fanning out, so it was clear the shit was on, and I quietly said to my friends I was running on the count of 3. I had barely said 2 when someone threw a bottle that just missed me and broke. That was like an instant shot of adrenaline, and we took off running like racehorses out of the gate. I did not know this neighborhood at all, so I had to follow my friend's lead. We crossed the next street and my friends were ahead and started up an alley. I started up too, but then don't go up an alley, it could be a dead end, flashed through my mind. And without thinking, I cut hard right and started running down the side street. They started splitting up chasing us, and I still vividly recall one of them yelling a few times, "Leave the brothers, get Whitey," which made me run faster. I ran about a block and a half, but was losing steam in a big way. There were maybe a half dozen still chasing me, and although I had a good lead, still one was getting closer. I was figuring I should just save what energy I had and just put up my best fight. I started slowing down, but suddenly a guy in a Deuce 88 that was heading the same way as I was running slowed up and yelled out his window, "Do you need help?" I raced over, pulled open the door, and literally dove in the back seat. But instead of driving away, he started backing up. I was freaking out and yelling, "Don't go back! Don't go back!" But he came to a stop quickly, reached under his seat, pulled out a .38, and just started popping off shots, which ended things quickly. As we drove off, he handed me a bottle of whiskey, a spirit I have never enjoyed to this day. But that night, the huge slug I took was the best thing I ever tasted. Just freaking crazy. Turned out that the alley my friends went up became a dead end. They were both badly beaten, hospital and all that. They were both black, and given the very overt race comments about getting me, I was the only white guy there other than the guy in the Olds. And the fact that race relations in Detroit back then were so horrendous, my not following my friends was a cusp in my life. Had that driver not happened on me and I had to fight in the street, I'd have gotten a serious ass kicking. Just how it goes. But I have no doubt that had I gone up that alley, and considering what they did to my friends, I would not have come out of it alive. Quite likely could have been someone's initiation to finish me. Looking back, I'm just glad I survived that night.
When I was 14, I had this really freaky experience. So I went with my buddies James and Garrett to hang out. We decided to check out this abandoned building in Grand Rapids, rumored to be haunted. Anyway, we get there, and immediately something feels off. The whole place stinks, and it's covered in graffiti. But we're like, whatever, and decide to explore. We're laughing and joking until we hit this really creepy part with all these messages on the walls about someone living there. We start to get spooked, but Garrett pulls out a Ouija board and we're like, why not? We set it up and start asking questions. It's dead quiet until James cracks a dumb joke. Then, out of nowhere, the piece moves to no. We're all like, whoa, what? But then it spells out, stay with you. That's when things go from weird to downright terrifying. Suddenly, James and Garrett start acting strange. They're smiling like maniacs with these wide open eyes. I'm freaking out, but I try to play it cool. I suggest we leave. But when I look at them, I feel this wave of fear wash over me. They just look wrong. I make a run for it, and they start chasing me. But here's the thing, they're running all weird, like their arms are glued to their sides and their heads are at these unnatural angles. It's like something out of a horror movie. I manage to find a hiding spot and lock myself in, but I can hear them outside, giggling like lunatics. I'm freaking out, but then James calls out to me, sounding normal. I think maybe it was all a joke, you know? But when I ask about Garrett, James says he doesn't see him. That's when I notice two shadows under the door. It hits me. They're trying to trick me. I smash a window and bolt, not looking back until I'm home and safe. But even then, I can't shake the feeling of being watched. And to top it off, both James and Garrett started texting me, asking me to come over. I'm freaked out, so I called my cousin to come over. I need someone with me if I'm going to check on them. So me and my cousin went to Garrett's house first. He seemed normal, and then we got into James's house. He seemed fine too. We discussed what happened after, and both of them said they woke up near the spot where we used the Ouija board. It's been many years, and those encounters still creep me out every time I think about it.
I'm a skeptic about the paranormal, though I enjoy hearing stories and others' perspectives. That's why what happened to me last September is so hard to understand. My dad, grandparents, and I went to my cousin's wedding in a rural town near South Haven, Michigan. We rented a small house in a wooded area by a lake. The moment I got out of the car, something felt off. I was immediately uneasy, but I shrugged it off, thinking I was just tired and anxious. The first night, my dad and I were smoking outside around 11 p.m., and everything sounded weird. The trees crackled loudly, and there were strange animal noises. It was just odd. We said goodnight and went to bed. The next morning, my dad mentioned he'd gone outside for a smoke around 2 a.m. and heard loud banging on metal siding, like it was right next door. There were no footsteps or any other sounds. We laughed it off. The second night, I had an experience I can't stop thinking about. Around midnight, I was having my last smoke of the night. My grandparents were asleep, and my dad had just gotten into bed, but was still awake watching TV. I was sitting on the stairs outside, looking into the backyard, when I heard someone shout my name loudly and abruptly. It sounded like it came from the front of the house, as if someone was on the front porch shouting for me. It sounded exactly like my dad, but I didn't hear the front door open or close. Trying to stay calm, I quickly went back inside. My dad was sound asleep. There was no way he could have gotten back into bed so quickly. I woke him up and asked if he'd been outside yelling my name. He looked confused and said no. I was really freaked out. I stayed up all night, unable to stop thinking about the scream. I even considered leaving and getting a hotel room, but eventually fell asleep around 3 a.m. The next morning, I was ready to leave that town. As soon as we left, the uneasy feeling vanished. When I got back to work, I told a coworker about the experience. Her face dropped. She said this is common in the Appalachian area, with cryptids that mimic voices to get your attention. But I was in Michigan. I tried researching the town but found nothing interesting. After realizing that, I vowed never to go back to that place.
I hope you found these stories as chilling and unsettling as I did. It's a stark reminder that sometimes reality can be stranger and more frightening than fiction. If you enjoyed these tales of suspense, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more spine-chilling content. This is your host, Nicholas Black. Until next time.